do we hate?
We hate because we're taught to hate. We hate because we're ignorant. We're the product of ignorant people who have been taught an ignorant thing, which is that there are 4 or 5 different races. There are not 4 or 5 different races. There's only one race on the face of the earth, and we're all members of that race, the human race. But we have separated people into races so that some of us can see ourselves as superior to the others. We thought it would work. I guess it hasn't worked. It has been bad for everyone. It's time to get over this business. There is no gene for racism. There's no gene for bigotry. You're not born a bigot. You have to learn to be a bigot. Anything you learn, you can unlearn. It's time to unlearn our bigotry. It's time to get over this thing, and we best get over it pretty soon. I'm an educator, and it's my business as an educator to lead people out of ignorance. The ignorance of thinking that you're better or worse than someone else because of the amount of a pigment in your skin. Pigmentation in your skin has nothing to do with intelligence or with your worth as a human being. It's time to get over that. We live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. White people are the free, and people of color have to be brave. I want this situation to change. I want it to be such that no black person has to have courage to get up in the morning. I watched my students become what I told them they were. I watched little wonderful brown-eyed white people become vicious, ugly, nasty, discriminating, domineering people in the space of 15 minutes. I watched where brilliant little blue-eyed white Christian children become timid and frightened and angry and unable to learn in the space of 15 minutes. If you do that with a whole group of people for a lifetime, you change them psychologically. You convince those who are analogous to the brown-eyed people that they are superior, that they are perfect, and you convince those who take the place of the blue-eyed students that they are less than. I separated my students according to the color of their eyes, treated the brown-eyed people the way we treat white people in this country, treated the blue-eyed people the way we treat people of color in this country. Prejudging people before you know nothing about them is you do it because you don't want to give up your ignorance. You want to continue to believe in the rightness of whiteness, and that is a lie. We have to give that up. We have to envy, and you have to teach children that you must not respect somebody disabuses somebody else because of your reaction to their skin color. It's not because of their skin color. It's because of pale-face's reaction, ignorant reaction to skin color. Skin color is real. It can't be changed. It shouldn't have to be changed, but we can change attitudes and behaviors, and that's what we need to do. Change the way you talk around your children. Don't make those statements like, well, I don't dislike black people, but I wouldn't want my daughter to marry one. But saying things like that around your children. Quit making racist remarks around your children, because children will repeat those remarks when they come to some educator like me, and I'll have to say to them, wait a minute, do you have any idea how it feels to be something that like a person of that color? Would you like to experience living that person's life? Indicate to your children why those remarks are racist. Don't continue to allow that to happen in front of your children, because if you do, you are teaching your children what you will put up with. And if something is intolerable for my cousins of color, and we're all 30th to 50th cousins, then it's intolerable for me, and I will not tolerate it. And to act as though you're members of a different race is ignorant. Don't do it. Just plain don't do it. Human beings come in many different colors. Accept them as they are and enjoy them as they are. And don't allow anyone to tell you that you're members of different races. You don't judge a bird by its color or a person by their skin. That only an ignorant person does that. And I would wear my sweatshirt on which it says, prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance. I can't change your attitude, but I can challenge your attitude. And you have to prove to me that so-called white people are superior to everybody else on the face of the earth. And you can't do it because it isn't true. People are wondering whether what she did 52 years ago should be relevant today. In 52 years, we should have solved this problem. I am so determined that we change the education system in this country. I am so determined that we change what we're educating people to believe. There's only one race on the face of the earth, and that's the human race. Once we get that into the heads of our legislators, we'll have a different kind of law written. Once we get that into the heads of the police, we'll have a different law enforcement. Once we get that into the heads of educators, we'll have different education. I was teaching third grade in Riceville, Iowa. I walked into my house. The telephone was ringing. I answered the telephone. My sister said, "Is your television on?" I said, "No." She said, "You better turn it on." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because they shot him." I said, "Who did we shoot this time?" And she said, "Martin Luther King Jr." And I couldn't for a minute think that the world was still spinning. There was no way I could explain the ignorance and the lack of civility and the unchristian behavior that this country was exhibiting with the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. We thought we stopped Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream by killing him. His dream is more alive now than it was when he was living, and you have proof of it by what's going on in every major city in the United States of America right now. Racism isn't about skin color. It's about white fear of different kinds of people. It's not skin color that's the problem. The skin color is the problem. You can't change skin color. You can change attitudes. Any white person who was born, raised, and schooled in the United States of America, if you aren't a racist, you're a miracle. Either that or you decided to educate yourself. Because education in this country is about white is right, brown's all right, black's got to stand back. Yellow's melon, but whites, we educate in a way that says that white males have done all the adventures, have made all the adventures, have done all the discovering, have made everything that is good and has been accomplished according to social studies, which is actually anti-social studies, by white males. It's a lie. But we do that in order to maintain the myth of white superiority. The myth of race has to be maintained at all costs in this country, because if white people have to give up the color of their skin as being something that makes them perfect, what do they have left? If we start teaching the truth about history, if we start teaching about Nile Valley contributions to civilization, it will totally change the way we conduct ourselves in the classroom. It will have to. Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover a place where people are already living, but we celebrate that every October. It's a lie. We need to get over it. We need to stop telling the myths and start telling the truth. And when some woman says to me, "I don't see color," I say, "I knew that. If you saw color, you wouldn't dye your hair that way." Or I say, if you saw color, you wouldn't wear that shirt with those pants. I believe that you don't see color. It's an attempt to deny skin color. And it's an attempt to deny what's wrong with seeing the color of my skin. Is it all right for you to see me kind of pink? That's okay for me. I don't mind. And I suspect that you don't mind being seen the color you are. You have a right to be what you are. And until people in this country and people in this world get it into their heads that the first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women. They evolved in sub-Saharan Africa about 280,000 years ago. And every human being on the face of the earth today has the memory of those black women's genetic structure in their genes. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And as people moved farther and farther from the equator, their bodies produced less and less melanin, so their hair, their skin, and their eyes got lighter. As they moved into the east, they ate a lot of fish and a lot of vegetables, so their skin took on a different tone. Now, if you think that skin color isn't anything other than the body's natural reaction to the natural environment, get over it.
So, if all white people are racist, according to you, can they be reprogrammed?
Of course they can. Of course they can. Of course they can be. It's called education. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from the root duc, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people out of ignorance. Now, I know you can change them. Now, think about that. Next year, it will be the 50th anniversary of the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. and the beginning of the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise. When are we going to learn? When are we going to put a stop to this? I'm an educator. Every educator should refuse to perpetuate the myth of white superiority. There's only one race, It's the human race.